Before you listen to this story, do one thing for me. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it. The cameras were supposed to make me feel safe. Instead, they showed me I wasn't alone. I was in my early 20s when a friend asked me to house sit for a week while they were out of town. Their place was a large, modern house in a quiet residential area. The kind with wide streets, trimmed hedges, and neighbors who kept to themselves. It was the middle of winter, and storms had been rolling through all week. Heavy wind, freezing rain, long, dark nights. I agreed almost immediately. My own apartment was small, drafty, and sat above a noisy street. Their house felt solid, secure. Every major room had a security camera, all connected to a tablet mounted in the kitchen. My friend even joked that I'd be safer there than anywhere else. The first night felt almost peaceful. The storm rattled the windows, but the house was warm. The hum of the heating system filled the quiet spaces. I made dinner, locked the doors, and checked the camera feeds once before going upstairs to sleep. Every room looked exactly as it should. Almost. When I checked the cameras again before bed, I noticed something small. One of the indoor cameras, the one in the living room, was tilted slightly downward. Just a few degrees. Enough that the couch was cut off at the edge of the frame. I stood there staring at the screen, trying to remember if I'd bumped it earlier. I hadn't touched it. I was sure of that. I adjusted it back and told myself it was nothing. Maybe it had been loose. That night I slept lightly. The storm outside kept me half awake. Branches scraping against the house. Rain tapping the roof like fingers. Still, nothing happened. The next day, I started checking the cameras more often. Not because I was scared. At least, that's what I told myself. It was curiosity. Boredom. But I began noticing things that didn't line up with my memory. A chair in the dining room angled differently. A door that looked slightly open when I knew I'd closed it. When I walked through the house, everything appeared normal. But on the screens, the rooms felt off. Like I was looking at a version of the house that didn't quite match reality. That night, one of the feeds glitched. Just for a second. The image froze, then skipped forward. My stomach tightened, but I blamed the storm. Bad weather messes with signals. I didn't sleep much after that. On the third night, I locked every door before bed. I checked the handles. Twice. The house creaked softly as it cooled, and the wind howled outside. Around midnight, I got up for water and noticed the back door was unlocked. I stood there staring at it, my hand resting on the cold metal handle. I knew I'd locked it. I could picture myself doing it. I locked it again and went back upstairs, heart beating a little faster than it should have. I pulled up the camera feeds on my phone and left them open on the nightstand. Sometime after 1 a.m., a camera feed went offline. The hallway camera upstairs. The screen went black with a small loading symbol spinning in the corner. I refreshed it. Nothing. The rest of the feeds were fine. Every room empty. Still. Too still. I told myself to relax. Old systems. Bad Wi-Fi. Storm interference. I turned my phone face down and tried to sleep. Then I heard it. A soft thump above me. Footsteps. Slow. Measured. I sat up in bed, listening. The sound stopped. My mouth felt dry. I reached for my phone and flipped it over. That's when I saw him. On the kitchen tablet downstairs, one camera feed was active again. The hallway camera. A figure stood in the center of the frame. Tall. Completely still. Facing directly toward the lens. I stared at the screen, my brain refusing to catch up with what my eyes were seeing. The figure didn't move, didn't sway, didn't shift its weight. It was like a person frozen in place. Then the feed cut to static. The power flickered. Once, twice. The lights went out. I heard footsteps again. Louder this time. Above me. I slid off the bed, my hands shaking. The house was silent except for the storm and the sound of movement overhead. Something passed my bedroom door. A shadow stretched beneath it. I didn't think. I didn't grab my phone. I ran. I opened the window and climbed out into the cold, my bare hands burning as they hit the icy siding. Snow soaked through my clothes as I dropped to the ground. I kept running until my lungs screamed. I waited outside in the freezing dark until the police arrived. They searched the house room by room. They found nothing. No signs of forced entry. No footprints. No broken locks. They suggested stress, fatigue, a malfunctioning camera system. I didn't argue. I never went back inside. I don't use security cameras anymore, because being watched without knowing is terrifying. But seeing proof of it is worse. Everyone in town told us to stay away from that house. The night we ignored them is the night I stopped believing in coincidence. I was in my early 20s, living in a nearly empty small town after taking a temporary contract job I couldn't afford to turn down. The town had once been busy, but now most storefronts were shuttered, and half the houses sat dark even in the evenings. Winter had settled in hard. Snow piled along the roads, and the air smelled sharp, metallic, like frozen rust. My friend Mark was the only person I knew there. We both worked long hours, and by the time evening came, boredom pressed in heavier than the cold. That's how the abandoned house kept coming up. It sat at the edge of town, just beyond the last streetlight. A large two-story place everyone warned us about. Locals didn't give details. They never needed to. They just said, "Don't go in there," and changed the subject. That should have been enough. One night, restless and tired of silence, we decided to see it for ourselves. The house looked worse up close. Paint peeled off in long strips. Windows were clouded with grime. Snow drifted against the porch steps. But what stopped us were the footprints. Fresh, clear, leading straight to the front door. I remember looking at Mark and saying, "Someone's been here." He shrugged, trying to sound confident. Probably kids messing around. But the prints didn't leave. They went in and stopped. The door creaked when we pushed it open, the sound loud enough to make me flinch. Inside, the air was stale and cold, like it hadn't moved in years. Dust hung in the beam of our flashlights. The smell was old wood, damp fabric, and something faintly sour underneath it all. What bothered me wasn't decay. It was order. Furniture sat where it belonged. Couches draped neatly with sheets. A dining table set with placemats. Family photos still lined the walls. Smiling faces frozen midlife. Eyes following us as we passed. It felt like the people who lived there had stepped out for a moment and never come back. We moved slowly, every floorboard groaning under our weight. Each sound echoed too long, like the house was listening. Halfway through the living room, I heard a noise above us. A step, not a creak settling, not wind. Clear, deliberate footstep. Mark froze. We both stood there, flashlights aimed upward, waiting. Another step followed. Then another. Slow. Measured. Someone was pacing the second floor. We hadn't gone upstairs yet. We were still by the front door. My mouth went dry. "Did you hear that?" I whispered. Mark nodded, his face pale in the beam of his light. We should have left right then. Instead, curiosity pushed us forward. We moved down the hallway, the walls closing in, the temperature dropping with every step. At the end of the hall was a door we hadn't noticed before. It slammed shut. The sound exploded through the house, sharp and final. Dust shook loose from the ceiling. My heart jumped so hard it hurt. That door blocked the shortest path back to the entrance. The footsteps upstairs stopped. The silence afterward was worse. Thick, pressing. Then the pacing started again. Faster this time. The sound moved toward the staircase. Each step landed heavier than the last. Mark grabbed my arm, his fingers digging into my sleeve. "We need to go," he whispered. Before we could move, a light flicked on in a room off the hallway. A bare bulb buzzed weakly, casting a yellow glow into the corridor. The switch was on the inside. Neither of us had touched it. That's when I heard my name. Soft. Close. Like someone standing just behind me. I spun around, flashlight shaking, but the hallway was empty. The footsteps rushed down the stairs. Fast. Loud. Unmistakable. The light flickered. The house groaned. "Run," Mark said, his voice breaking. We bolted down the hallway, slipping on loose boards, slamming into door frames. The front door felt impossibly far away. Behind us, something moved with purpose, not chasing blindly, but following. I heard my name again, clearer this time. We burst through the front door and into the cold, lungs burning as we sprinted through knee-deep snow. I didn't look back until we hit the road. The house stood dark again, silent, empty, like nothing had happened. We didn't talk much on the drive home. There wasn't anything to say that made sense. That night I didn't sleep. Every creak outside my apartment sounded like a footstep. Every shadow felt occupied. Within days I asked to be transferred. Mark left town not long after. We never went back to that house. We never told anyone exactly what happened. I don't know who or what was inside. I don't know why it knew my name. All I know is this. Some places don't want to be explored, and when they warn you, it's not to scare you. It's to keep you from being remembered. The abandoned house behind my home had always been there. I just didn't know it was watching us back. I was a teenager then, still living with my family in a quiet neighborhood where nothing ever seemed to happen. Our street ended in a line of trees, and behind our backyard fence sat an old two-story house that had been abandoned for as long as I could remember. Its windows were dark. Its paint peeled like dead skin. Everyone said it was empty. After school, I spent most of my time at home. My parents worked late, and the silence stretched on for hours. From my bedroom window, I could see the back of that house through the trees. I told myself it was just part of the scenery, like a broken fence or an old shed you stopped noticing after a while. That changed the winter I started hearing the sound. It was a low hum, steady and mechanical, drifting through the cold air at night. Not loud, not aggressive, just constant. It came from the direction of the abandoned house. The thing was, everyone knew that house had no electricity. At first, I assumed it was something else. A distant generator, whined through loose metal. I even pressed my ear to the wall one night, trying to trace it. The sound vibrated faintly in my chest, like standing too close to an appliance that shouldn't be on. Night after night it returned. Always after dark. Always the same pitch. I mentioned it to my friend Ryan one afternoon. He laughed and told me I was psyching myself out. Still, I noticed he looked toward the trees when I said it. A few days later, we decided to check it out. We waited until early evening, when the sky turned gray and the neighborhood grew quiet. The back door of the abandoned house wasn't locked. It never had been. The wood groaned when we pushed it open, and the smell hit us immediately. Stale air mixed with damp fabric and something sour underneath. The house wasn't empty. Cans of food sat on the counter. Not rusted. Not dusty. Fresh. 2 metal dog bowls rested on the kitchen floor, one filled with dry food. Upstairs, a light flickered on and off, casting weak shadows on the wall. Ryan whispered that we should leave. I nodded, but curiosity held my feet in place. That's when we heard the voice. Came from upstairs. A man's voice. Low. Commanding. He wasn't talking to himself. He was talking to someone else. We crept closer, every step loud in the silence. From the top of the stairs, we saw them. People. More than one. Restrained. Sitting on the floor of a bedroom that had been stripped down to bare walls. Their faces were pale. Their eyes locked onto us with panic. One of them whispered, "Please." My heart dropped into my stomach. Before either of us could move, the voice behind us sharpened. Angry. Close. Too close. Ryan turned to run. That's when the man appeared at the top of the stairs, holding something small and black in his hand. There was a crackling sound, sharp and electric. Ryan screamed and collapsed. I froze. Every instinct screamed at me to move, but my body wouldn't listen. The man's eyes locked onto mine. They weren't wild. They were focused, calm, like he'd been waiting for this. He stepped toward me. I don't remember thinking. I remember running. My shoes slipped on the stairs as I bolted down them. The hum grew louder, filling the house, vibrating through the walls. Behind me, footsteps thundered. Someone shouted my name, but I didn't look back. I burst through the back door and ran until my lungs burned and my legs shook. I didn't stop until I reached my house. I slammed the door, locked it, dropped the phone twice before dialing. My voice broke as I tried to explain. There's a man behind my house, people inside. Sirens wailed in the distance. Red and blue lights cut through the trees. I watched from my bedroom window as police swarmed the abandoned house. Shadows moved in the windows. Doors were kicked in. Shouts echoed into the night. The humming stopped. Ryan survived. The people inside were rescued. The man was arrested. I never learned his name and I never asked. Within months, the house was torn down, reduced to splintered wood and an empty lot. From the outside, it looked like the problem had been erased. But some things don't leave when the walls come down. Even now, when I hear a low electrical hum, my body locks up before my mind can catch up, because I know some houses don't stay empty. They wait. I thought the job would be easy money. Then I found a door in the house that hadn't been there before. I was in my early 20s, a college student trying to stretch every dollar. When a friend of a friend offered me a weekend house-sitting job, I didn't hesitate. The pay was good, the dates worked, and I needed the cash. The couple lived just outside the city, down a quiet winter road where the trees leaned close and the streetlights thinned out fast. The house itself was old but well cared for. Hardwood floors, thick walls, the kind of place that creaked naturally when it got cold. During the walkthrough, they showed me everything I needed to know. Alarm code, spare key, thermostat. Nothing felt strange. If anything, it felt safe. Too quiet, maybe, but peaceful. When they left Friday afternoon, snow had already started falling. By night, the house felt sealed off from the world. No traffic. No neighbors close enough to hear. Just the soft tick of the radiators and the wind brushing the siding. I told myself to enjoy it. The first night passed slowly. I made dinner, watched TV, and tried to focus on homework. Around midnight, as I turned off the lights and walked down the hallway toward the guest room, something caught my eye. A door. It was narrow, taller than it was wide, painted the same color as the walls. I stopped in place, confused. I was sure it hadn't been there earlier. The hallway wasn't long. I would have noticed it. I told myself I was tired, that my memory wasn't perfect. Still, I reached out and touched the handle. Cold metal. Locked. I went to bed uneasy, but nothing else happened that night. The next evening I heard the noise. It was faint. A soft clicking sound, followed by a low hum. Mechanical, steady, came from behind the door. When I stepped closer, the sound stopped instantly, like someone had flipped a switch. I stood there listening, my breath loud in my ears. Nothing. Over the next day, the door became impossible to ignore. Every time I passed it, I glanced over, felt present. I checked the house listing photos online. No door in that hallway. I replayed the walkthrough in my head. They hadn't mentioned it, hadn't opened it, hadn't even glanced at it. That night I locked it. I remember the click clearly. In the morning it was unlocked. The handle turned easily in my hand. I felt a rush of cold run through me, the kind that starts at your stomach and spreads outward. I locked it again, harder this time, tugged on it to be sure. That afternoon, when I came back from grabbing groceries, the door was slightly open, just an inch, enough to notice, enough to see darkness beyond it. Closed it, locked it, sat in the living room with all the lights on. The second night was worse. I woke up to the hum again, louder now, closer. It seemed to vibrate through the walls. When I stepped into the hallway, light leaked from beneath the door. A A thin line, warm and steady, like a room lamp left on. My heart pounded as I approached. I put my hand near the frame. The air felt warmer there, almost alive. I heard movement. Not footsteps exactly, more like shifting, something adjusting its weight. I backed away. That's when my phone lost signal. No bars, no Wi-Fi, just nothing. I tried calling a friend. Failed instantly. The hum cut out at the same time, leaving the house in heavy silence. Then the handle began to turn. Slowly, deliberately, the door creaked open on its own. I stepped back. My breath caught. The walls started making noise. Footsteps. Inside them. Moving. Circling. I ran for the front door. It wouldn't open. I turned back. The hallway was darker now. The door wider. I heard breathing. Close. Behind me. I didn't look. I smashed through the guest room window instead. Glass tore at my hands. Cold air hit my face. I landed hard in the snow and didn't stop running until my lungs burned and my legs shook. I waited outside until morning, sitting in my car with the engine running, staring at the house. Nothing moved. No lights. No sound. I left the keys on the porch and drove away. I didn't explain. I didn't ask for the rest of the money. I blocked their number and never went back. They never followed up. That's what bothers me most. Even now, whenever I enter a room, my eyes go straight to the walls. Because once you find a door that shouldn't exist, you never stop wondering what else is hidden.